it is time for us to adopt a new company brand to encompass everything that we do. To reflect who we are and what we hope to build, I am proud to announce that starting today, our company is now Meta. Our mission remains the same. It's still about bringing people together. Our apps and their brands, they're not changing either. And we are still the company that designs technology around people.
On the 19th of October, Alex Heath of The Verge broke the news that Facebook has plans to rebrand itself with a new name. The article said Facebook is planning to change its company name next week to reflect its focus on building the Metaverse, according to a source with direct knowledge of the matter. This comes at a time when the name is the least controversial part of the company, with new reports on the effect of Facebook and Instagram on the mental health and leaks on the company's policies that have facilitated the spread of hatred and misinformation. The new name is said to reflect the company's goal of building a metaverse and expanding beyond a social media company. On the 28th of October, Zuckerberg announced it at his Connect 2021 conference that Facebook, the company, would be rebranded to Meta. While Facebook, the platform, would still exist as is, other platforms like Instagram, WhatsApp, Oculus, and more would now come under the Meta umbrella organization. Let's take a look at what we know about the Metaverse so far and why Facebook would want to rebrand. Facebook remained largely a social company for much of its existence, especially with acquisitions like Instagram and WhatsApp. Their motto was connecting people, and that was their focus. However, the company started to diversify with one of their biggest acquisitions, Oculus VR, for $2 billion. Oculus built virtual reality headsets, one of the first in the world that solved the issue the others had with latency, which made Oculus headsets an extremely smooth experience. Facebook immediately bet big on virtual reality being the next big platform after smartphones, and they wanted to be the first to conquer that space. In 2016, Facebook announced a social VR team to work towards this goal, and unveiled them during an event that gave us this picture on what the future of conferences could be like. In a blog post, Facebook announced long-term efforts to build the future of VR. The company believed that by providing a 360 experience to videos and interactions, they could build the future of social media. This is central to the new metaverse Zuckerberg was talking about. At the end of June this year, in a remote address to employees, Zuckerberg said, "What I think is most interesting is how these themes will come together into a bigger idea. Our overarching goal across all these initiatives is to help bring the metaverse to life." Zuckerberg also announced that he would be dedicating most of his efforts at the company henceforth towards the metaverse. Therefore, it makes sense that Facebook would want to rebrand the company under a bigger umbrella corporation that handles not just social media, which will still be a large part of the ecosystem, but newer initiatives that are no longer coupled with other platforms. This isn't a new procedure though. In 2015, Google rebranded itself under the umbrella corporation of Alphabet to provide a wider ecosystem so applications like YouTube and Waymo would act independent from the search giant. Snapchat rebranded to Snap Incorporated, and in 2016, the same year it started calling itself a camera company, and debuted its first pair of spectacles camera glasses. Soon after The Verge broke the news, Vlad Savov of Bloomberg noted that the site meta.com redirected to meta.org, the home of a biomedical research discovery tool developed under the stewardship of Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, which is co-founded by the Facebook CEO. In the end, this is exactly what Zuckerberg announced as the new name. The conference started off with Zuckerberg showing off what their vision for the metaverse is. It included a virtual home you could escape to, meeting up with friends in the metaverse as your animated self, calling people through VR experiences, exploring items in the metaverse like augmented reality art. This presentation was immediately met with mixed views on the internet. While a few people were excited about the metaverse and how it might actually help you connect even better remotely, something that could have helped everyone during the pandemic, not many were comfortable with giving Meta the level of access their personal lives and interactions. Facebook has had a less than favorable history of dealing with personal data and how they use it. And a name change isn't gonna fix that. Almost ironically, the next topic on the agenda was privacy and safety. However, this is not what we would expect it to be. To the metaverse, privacy means the option you have to be by yourself. This could mean blocking people or escaping to a different area where you can't be disturbed, where you can consume content by yourself. However, there was no mention of if there would ever be a possibility of you being able to do all this without the company tracking what you're up to. And it's safe to assume there will never be. However, talking of personal spaces, Meta also announced the Horizon Home. The Horizon Home would be the first thing you see when you put on your VR headset, and Meta would soon be launching a social version of the platform where you can invite your friends over and watch videos or use apps together. They're also expanding on this concept to Horizon Worlds, where you can build new worlds that work as you program them to. With easy drag and drop builders that help you generate interactive worlds the way you want. The next item on the list was work in the metaverse. Similar to hanging out with friends, Meta also aims to build a virtual workspace environment that can replicate office-like interactions right from wherever you want to be. While we don't have more information on what all you can do right now in the virtual workspaces, Zuckerberg announced that they'll be providing an option to use your work accounts to experience this feature. And it won't be tied to your personal Facebook accounts. Meta also announced that the Oculus Quest and other devices that would get these features would allow for loading of apps from your PC and other sources, and will not be tied to just the Oculus Store. While this might not seem like much, this is definitely a win for consumers, especially when we see more companies following the Apple model of building a closed, walled garden for their ecosystem. Zuckerberg also added that they would try to take minimal fees for their platform and provide all the tools needed to help developers build the apps for the metaverse, including a tool they're calling the Presence Platform, which will help app developers understand what is around a person and the environment they're in. Finally, to bring all these announcements to life, Meta announced a new line of products. Currently known to us only as Project Cambria, the company announced that next year we'll see newer VR headsets that will be the flagship models for the Metaverse vision. Zuckerberg said that the new Cambria devices will have a higher price point for now while they test out some of their newer advancements in VR, and they hope to later bring it down to the price point in the Quest is at, which currently starts at $299. Cambria will come with newer technology that lets your inverse metaverse avatar to mimic your facial expressions like blinking, face movements, and more. And they also announced a new augmented reality headset which will look like normal spectacles, called the Nazaire glasses. We don't have much information about these, except that Meta wants them to be the final form factor and is working on them at the moment. While the rebranding for the metaverse is the explanation that Facebook is giving us and is a good enough reason to shake up the organization's structure, it may not be the only reason why they would undertake this. Facebook's reputation has taken a massive nosedive in the past few years, right from the campaigns prior to the 2016 election, and especially highlighted by the Cambridge Analytica leaks in 2016, Facebook has had a bumpy road dealing with global politics. There have been cries from both sides of the political spectrum, one calling for action against misinformation and racism, and the other demanding less censorship and deplatforming. Facebook has since undergone multiple FTC investigations, congressional inquiries, and activism from the inside and external organizations. Over the years, many high-profile employees have left the company, culminating in Frances Haugen's whistleblowing. Next week, we'll serve up an absolute hurricane of Facebook news, the bulk of which will further dilute the brand equity. According to Facebook, dozens of journalists are planning to publish the results of their own investigations into the company. While Facebook still is a thriving business and has fewer allies and much less public trust, a recent New York Times article claimed that Instagram hasn't had the same level of success retaining and attracting a newer generation of users as they had with people before. With all this instability inside the company and uncertainty of the future of their platforms, it makes sense for Facebook to want to diversify and move attention away from their current mishaps. While we might never hear them admit to it, it is undoubtedly a huge factor, Adding to their misery, there was talk of antitrust legislation that could look into breaking up Facebook, and the rebrand would give them a chance to slightly isolate Facebook, the app, from Instagram and Oculus, under an umbrella corporation so they can defend any effort to be broken up into separate companies. While the metaverse is extremely impressive, it's also worrying that such strides are being made in this exciting field of virtual reality by a single company that is known for mining as much data as they can. Meta could get a monopoly on the business before it even properly takes off, and is definitely something we should keep in mind when the products launch.